flag on a bare hilltop, call up an army against Babylon. Raise a signal flag on a bare hilltop, call up an army against Babylon. Wave your hand to encourage them. Wave your hand to encourage them. As they march into the palaces of the high and mighty. I, the Lord, have dedicated these soldiers for this task. Yes, I have called mighty warriors to express my anger. Yes, I have called mighty warriors to express my anger. And they will rejoice when I am exalted.
Hello, good afternoon. Katherine Albrecht here with a bit of a cold. I have been, well, you haven't seen me for a week, I guess. I was gone on Thursday and gone on Tuesday also for the community mental health meeting. I managed to scrape myself up out of having the flu and managed to make it to that with lots of hand sanitizer and a mask. I'm happy to report that what I talked about last week, that we are moving forward with the attention to spirituality and religion in mental health care is proceeding apace, meaning going forward. And it looks like we're going to be introducing further attention to people's religious and spiritual care, their belief system in mental health. So that's a huge deal. If you're interested in learning more about that, you can look up the work of Harold Koenig, Koenig. Dr. Harold Koenig has been a guest on the show in the past, and he has spearheaded decades worth of research into the incredible benefits of having religious faith on a person's mental health. And if you missed the shows last week and the shows I've done leading up to this, the consensus among the psychiatric and psychological community, the mental health community these days, is that religion is a huge benefit, a net positive in enormous ways, protecting people against suicide, against depression, anxiety, PTSD, addiction, and a whole host of other mental conditions that are plaguing our society today ever since we've removed religion from the mental health care field. So if you have not yet looked into that research, please do so. I'm going to see if I can get Dr. Koenig back on the show to talk about it. Well, today I want to talk about the research that I've been doing in the last pretty hardcore in the last couple days while I was too sick to do much else. I did a whole lot of reading. And for longtime listeners, you know that I am writing a book on the history of technology. And the premise of the book is that technology is the inevitable result of the enslavement that humanity has to the deal that we struck, our ancestors at least, Adam and Eve struck in the Garden of Eden, when they chose to get the powers of God. And if you will recall that story, Adam and Eve were in the garden and God said, you can enjoy any fruit you have. You can have the whole, everything is good for you. There's no death, there's no sickness, there's no dying. There's not even any killing of animals because you will all eat vegetables and fruit. You will eat plants, and even the animals will eat plants. And there's only one rule, which is that you cannot eat from this tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And of course, Eve one day is walking by that tree, and the serpent, or Satan, comes out and says, "Did God really say you can't eat from that tree?" And she said, "Yes, he said we can't eat from it or we will surely die." And she said, or the serpent, Satan, said, "You won't surely die. God just doesn't want you to have his powers. But if you eat from that fruit, you will have the powers of God, knowing good and evil, and you will become like God." And she said, "That sounds like a good deal." So she bites into the apple. She then gives it to her husband, Adam. He bites into it. And of course, the rest of human history falls out from that point. So the premise of my book, and I've not heard anyone else express this premise, but I have, the more I look into it, the more I believe it to be absolutely true, is that the powers of God are given to humanity through technology. And those powers include the power to light the night sky, to have light at night, to travel at high speeds, to communicate over long distances, to see things that are happening in distant locations, to be almost omnipresent and omnipotent, being able to literally move mountains, because in China that's what they're doing. They're actually leveling mountains that are in their way, just completely bulldozing them away to the point where there's no more mountain. We have the power to decimate entire cities. We could, I guess, do the equivalent of what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah. We did in Hiroshima, decimate and flatten entire cities. So we essentially have the power to do a whole lot of things that God can do, but it is both good and evil. The technology that we exchanged God's provision for is both good and evil. And I say that because there are, in fact, the opening chapter of my book is about the numerous technologists starting in the 1800s, when we really started taking off with technology through the Industrial Revolution, and certainly through the 1900s, and most definitely within the last couple of decades, people saying, you know, was this really such a good deal? Because all of these great technologies that we've developed, every single last one of them has a very serious downside. So we developed pesticides, which seemed like such a great thing because now we can grow increased amounts of crops. But now we're finding that the pesticides are poisoning the land and poisoning our bodies and mimicking estrogens and causing all kinds of fertility problems and cancer. We came up with automobiles and the petroleum-powered engines, and that seemed like a really great deal, except now we're polluting everything and doing damage to the earth and extracting those petrochemicals. And the list goes on and on. Plastics seem like a really great thing. It's really super that we can create these containers that are artificially made. So instead of needing to preserve fruit like a tangerine with a peel that God made, we can just make our own peel. And we can encase things in plastic ourselves. But now, of course, we're swimming in microplastics, and we have an entire islands of plastic garbage floating in the ocean. So a lot of the things that we take for granted as being just so wonderful, we look at the downside and we say they're not so great. And I remember the introduction even of the internet back in 1993 when Tim Berners-Lee introduced the World Wide Web, the WWW back then. And I was at MIT and Harvard at the time, and I remember vast amounts of excitement, which I shared. I really thought, this is finally the technology that's going to be the be-all and end-all. What could possibly go wrong with enabling people to have the same powers as corporate media in order to communicate with one another? That seems like a fantastic idea, and we were all super excited. I was in my 20s at the time. And we were all absolutely convinced that this finally was going to be the technology that would repair everything. And now we look around and everybody's staring into a screen. We have the first generation of kids who are actually showing up to school without basic skills because their parents are the first generation of people to grow up glued to a screen in their formative years. And the COVID the teens in their COVID years are now becoming parents, and their kids are not learning even basic skills. This is the first generation in American history where the performance, the intellectual performance of young people is worse than that of the previous generation. We've been getting better and better and better until this generation, and now we're significantly worse. And with the introduction of artificial intelligence, it's becoming far worse because studies have shown that even 45 minutes worth of AI use actually reduces people's ability to solve basic problems, that it leads to all kinds of dependence. I've spoken to, I was recently traveling and stayed in an Airbnb, and the host of the Airbnb is a college professor who teaches writing, and boy, believe me, we had an interesting conversation because I said, how's that going for you these days? And she said, horrible. She cannot get her students to write anything, literally anything. And if she takes away their phones, has them put their phones away and says, here's a piece of paper, here's a blue book, I want you to write something, they actually complain to the administration and say she's putting undue hardship on us. That's how bad it's gotten, to where young people in college today can't even write a simple, couple of paragraph essay in answer to a question without complaining like snowflakes that they're being somehow unduly injured because they can't use their artificial intelligence crutch. So, all of this technology that we've been developing that seems to make such wonderful promises with the one hand offers great promises or great gifts with the one hand and tremendous downsides with the other. And that comes from a quote from Lord Acton. He was a member of parliament in Great Britain in the 1950s, I think. And he's the one who said, technology is a queer thing. It gives you great gifts with one hand, and it stabs you in the back with the other. So the tentative title of my book is Backstab, because technology has admittedly given us tremendous gifts. I will be the very first to admit that it's wonderful that I am able to communicate with you right now, that I'm able to speak to you on YouTube, that I have a microphone, and even though I'm probably thousands of miles away from where you are, we can communicate. That's fantastic. I think it's wonderful. I think it's great. I had a professor at Harvard once who asked us a question. He said, how many times, were it not for modern technology, would you have died already? And I was in my 20s, my kind of mid to late 20s, and I remember thinking, gosh, 4 or 5, actually, several times I would have already died were it not for technology. And, it has given us tremendous gifts. It has lengthened our lifespans. It has reduced infant mortality. It has added tremendously to the sanitation of our lives. I think people take flush toilets for granted, but in the previous days, it was a pretty big deal to figure out how to even eliminate human waste. It has enabled huge amounts of food production and food preservation. All of those things are fantastic, and I'm not going to knock any single one of them. But every single last one of them has a very serious downside. And so in my book, I'm actually going through even basic things like refrigeration, which you would think, what is there possibly not to love about refrigeration? And, excuse me, oh my goodness, what an awful cold. But anyway, there are things not to love about refrigeration. When I come back, I'll tell you what they are, and I'm also going to tell you about the fascinating thing that I learned about the 1800s. So stay tuned. I'll come right back and tell you about this trajectory that we've been on to increasingly technologize society in ways that may not be benefiting us. Stay tuned. I'm Katherine Albrecht.
Is your email box overrun with spam? With a StartMail account, you'll never have to give your real email address to a stranger again. Online shopping, newsletter subscriptions, getting that 30% off coupon, they all need your email address. But with StartMail, you can invent new addresses or aliases linked to your inbox behind the scenes and give those out to people while keeping your real address hidden. It's just one more protection from StartMail.com.
Red alert, Yahoo users. You've fallen in a trap that could ruin your life. If you keep using Yahoo,
you consent to sharing all data in your email account with our AI providers, and you grant us a perpetual license to use, display, publish, and publicly distribute your content in any media known now or in the future, and to let other users access and distribute it as well.
Yikes. It's time to switch to StartMail, the only email that's AI-free and private by design.
Do you begin to smell some funky little things going on? Let me share this story with you. It's not so much a story, it's something I wrote years ago. Read your history, people. Stock markets collapse on Friday. Bank seizures, closures, holidays take place after business hours on Friday. Do currencies or governments also collapse on Friday? Tomorrow's Friday. Will the end come on this Friday, or will the inevitable collapse hold off for a while? The next round of the worst financial crisis in 100 years is coming, people, and the government is out to make you and I pay for it. Will your savings survive a global banking wipeout? What happens when the U.S. sees hyperinflation? What if taxes soar not only for the rich? Can you survive if the stock market tanks? Look, between a stock market wipeout, waves of bank failures, soaring government spending that will lead to hyperinflation, and the destruction of the dollar's value, isn't it time that you prepare for the uncertainty which lies ahead? Protect your money now. or forever kiss it goodbye. My friends, I offer you over 6 decades experience of hard asset ownership and knowledge, and I'm prepared to handle the smallest detail in the balanced protection of your portfolio. For as the future of uncertainty continues to blanket this nation of ours, I believe that I can offer you the privacy, safety, security, and possibly some profitability which you deserve. And so I invite you to visit SierraMadrePreciousMetals.com for further information regarding protecting your wealth, or call me, Jeffrey Bennett, at 602-799-8214, or by email at kettlemaraineltd@cox.net for private consultation. Once again, our phone number 602-799-8214. It's almost Friday.
My shepherd, I have everything that I need. Here in the meadow, I'll rest in the pastures of green. Beside the still waters, I know he's restoring my soul. The Lord is my shepherd, I'll follow wherever he goes.
Hey, I'm back. Katherine Albrecht here. All right, so talking about the downsides of technology, and I can give you a list of pretty much every technology, even ones that I thought there couldn't possibly be a downside to that. And let me use refrigeration as an example. I've been working on this for about a year now, and really thinking about this for decades, actually, but actually working in earnest on doing the research for this for about a year. So let me talk about refrigeration. One of the things that our ancestors used to do, or the main things that our ancestors used to do to preserve food, actually contribute to our microbiome. This is the collection of microorganisms in our gut that contribute to our brain health, our well-being, our overall immune system. They are sort of a second brain, and science, nutritional science, medical science, has only really been aware of the importance of the microbiome for the last couple of decades. And really in earnest, probably the last 5 or 10 years, a whole lot of new studies are coming out to show the importance of the microbiome. So one of the problems that we have today is that we have very few sources of nutrition, very few foods that actually feed our microbiome or contribute to our microbiome, because the things that build up the microbiome are fermentation and preservation methods of the past. We, in the past, our ancestors used to take cabbage, for example, and they would slice it up into little shreds, and they would put it in a jar. They would cover it in salt and water. They would put a stone on top of it and leave it in a jar for months, and it would turn into, ta-da, sauerkraut. It would do that automatically using the yeast in the air, literally just floating around in the air. God provided that so that all of the foods that you couldn't preserve, you could ferment through yeast in the air. He actually has them floating around for us, already ready-made. You could do the same with apples. You could take apple juice, and before pasteurization, you could just take that apple that was grown in your field, that was clean and not covered in pesticides. You could wash it off, you could squeeze it up, you could make juice out of it. You could drink the juice while it was fresh, and then you could leave the juice sitting on your counter covered with some cheesecloth, or however you wanted to cover it up, and just keep the bugs out, and it would turn into, ta-da, fermented cider, which would be an alcoholic beverage. It would be bubbly. And then if you left it long enough, it would continue to ferment and would then turn into vinegar, which keeps indefinitely. So you could keep your apples even in the wintertime. You could have the equivalent of the nutrition from apples in the form of vinegar that you could then use to make various things. And the vinegar would be absolutely chock full of probiotics, absolutely chock full of good things for your gut to thrive, to help your gut thrive. Now, not only would that happen, but if you had milk that you just squeezed from a cow and you drank the fresh milk, or fed it to your kids, or did whatever you were going to do with it, cooked with it, baked with it. Then you could take the remaining milk, and I've actually done this now for a couple of years, and you can take little grains called kefir grains. They're kind of like everlasting gobstoppers made of gelatin, if you can picture those little bumpy things. You can put those into a container of fresh milk and put cheesecloth on it, leave it on your counter, and within a matter of 2 or 3 days, you have kefir, which is like yogurt. It's like liquid yogurt. And that is also chock full, not only of lactobacilli, the probiotic made from milk, but also a whole host. I think the last time I looked it up, I saw that there were 130 different microbes, different strains of thing that are in a kefir grain. And it will keep then indefinitely. I've actually kept, I don't know about indefinitely. If I stick it in the fridge, it keeps forever. But on my counter, it'll keep for at least a week or two before. And even then, when it starts to turn bad, it doesn't turn bad. It's not going to hurt you. It just tastes kind of like cheese. It's not very delicious. But that is a way that our ancestors used to preserve food prior to the advent of refrigeration. So nowadays, what happens? Well, we've got factory farms, and so the cows that are producing the milk are living in muck. I don't know if you've ever been up through Northern California. If you drive up the I-5, you will drive up through past Harris Ranch, which is a ranch where a lot of the nation's beef comes from in California. And you will look out the window. First of all, you'll notice it from a couple miles away because of the stench. The stench will blow your head off. You'll be driving up the freeway and you'll be going, what is that smell? Oh. And then as you drive closer, you'll drive past miles of cows on both sides of the road with no trees, with no greenery, with no nothing, just cow after cow after cow. And they are all standing in what looks like about a foot of manure. That is the conditions that our beef comes from. Those are the conditions that our milk comes from. So yay, hooray, we have, lots of easy to access beef and milk, but it's not the same kind of beef and milk that Laura Ingalls Wilder was getting from her cow, Bessie on the farm. It is milk that is coming from cows that are living in absolutely inhumane, unsanitary, filthy conditions that have to be given antibiotics in order to even be able to survive. They develop mastitis, their udders, because they've been bred to produce so much milk that they can't even withstand the amount of pressure that's put on their own udders. They have to be given antibiotics for mastitis, which is a breast infection or an udder infection in this case. They just the conditions that they live in is horrific. And so what happens to that milk? Well, we get the milk. They take all the milk from the cows using industrial methods, line them up and put electric milkers on them. They get all the milk. It all runs together into one big vat. And you don't know whether one of those cows has mastitis and is putting active infection agents into that huge tanker of milk from 100 different cows. And so what do? You have to pasteurize it. So now you've heated it up. And you also homogenize it. This is one of the other modern miracles of food production these days, where you take the fat molecules, which normally are long, lacy strands. So the reason that when you take, if you don't know this, I'll tell you, if you take milk directly from a cow and you let it sit in your fridge, on your counter, wherever, it will separate and the cream will rise to the top. You ever heard that phrase, the cream rises to the top? That's what it's referring to. The cream will rise to the top of the milk, and in maybe a half-gallon jar of milk like this, you might have like 2 inches of cream at the top. And you can skim that cream off. You can churn it into butter. You can use it as cream. You can, it's basically cream. You can whip it up. You can do whatever you do with cream. And then the milk below it is called skim milk because it's had the cream skimmed off of it. Or if you want it all mixed together, you can just shake the jar. Just shake your half-gallon jar and pour out a glass and drink it before it separates again. But in the interest of modern, keeping things standard in the modern era, they have begun homogenizing milk. And homogenizing milk means taking those lengthy strands. They're actually, if you could see them under a microscope, the strands of the cream layer are long, lacy molecules, or I don't even know what the word is, but they're long and lacy strands of the fat molecules, and they pressurize them through a very small mesh. So each one is broken up as it has to go through the holes, and it makes them into tiny, tiny molecules that then can mix and stay homogeneous. Homogeneous means all mixed together and all the same. So they homogenize and pasteurize our milk and kill all of the bacterial goodness that would have been in it. All right, stay tuned.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network. Real news, real talk, real people. Because you can handle the truth.
As an individual in good physical shape, I'm thankful to not have to contend with pain often. But when I do, there's only one solution I choose for instant pain relief and rapid healing. That solution is Pain Liberator, Miracle Muscle Pain Reliever. Pain Liberator comes in a convenient spray bottle filled with a blend of DMSO, dimethyl sulfoxide, aspirin, and magnesium delivered in a colloidal silver water blend. DMSO is most well known in farming, such as for horses with arthritis, but it's commonplace in the sports training world too. Beyond that, anything you combine with DMSO is taken into the skin with 90+% efficiency, meaning the aspirin goes straight into your pain point, deep into the tissues, again for maximum instant pain relief. Add into the equation the quite miraculous benefits, healing potentials of aspirin and magnesium, and there truly is nothing like Pain Liberator. Just head on over to libertyunderattack.com/pain to place your order today. Again, libertyunderattack.com/pain. Act now, and no relief is on the way.
My name is John. I'm the founder of Blackout Coffee, and I started Blackout because I really love coffee. I've always loved coffee, and after traveling so much to Europe, South America, and trying so many different coffees that were so good, and every time I came back to the U.S., I was so disappointed with the coffee, so I figured that I had to do something about it. The biggest difference is on the beans and the roasting process, how we roast it, and how fresh it is. The fresher the roast, the better the quality. Here I have like all of the coffee. It's roasted within 1 to 2 days prior to being shipped. So it literally gets to consumers' house within 3 to 5 days after being roasted. If you like coffee, you have to try ours. It's fresh roasted. It's one of the best beans that we can get, and you will definitely see the difference.
Visit blackoutcoffee.com and use the coupon code REPUB10. That's REPUB10.
Extendivite, a 7-herb combination of garlic, cayenne, hawthorn, bilberry, ginkgo biloba, valerian, and milk thistle. Extendivite is designed to strengthen the heart and arteries and help the body heal itself. Doctors are not able to explain the improvements they are seeing in their patients' health who are taking Extendivite. People who once needed more pills are now taking less and getting better. Due to the unexplainable improvements in their patients' health, more doctors are calling to order Extendivite for themselves. Help Extendivite make your doctor a believer. Extendivite is available in capsule or liquid form for just $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To get started, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822, or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite. 1, 2, 3, 4. The Lord is my shepherd. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. The Lord is my shepherd. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want.
Hey, I'm back. This is the Katherine Albrecht Show. You can find this show on YouTube. Today I'm actually live streaming on YouTube. If you go to the Katherine Albrecht Show on YouTube, I am actually on there. I feel a little bit like, I don't know, I'm not in my actual top form, given that I spent literally 4 days lying on my back in bed. I haven't done that in years. I can't remember the last time I did that, but I have been traveling. I've been in a couple different states. I've been in different parts of the state. I have been all over pillar to post, and I think by the time I actually came down sick the day after my son's college graduation, yay! I had spent, I believe, 2 or 3 nights in my own bed out of the previous like 14. So it's not super surprising that I came down with a horrible cold. But I have a couple of tips for you, by the way, on coming down with a cold. I was actually traveling. I was in Grand Rapids, Michigan, which is about 3 hours away from here, when I first got the symptoms of the cold coming on. And you know what that feels like, right? It's the middle of the night. You know, it's 2 in the morning. And you just, that little tickle in your throat, that little something in your sinuses, you have that feeling like something's coming on. If I had been home, I could have stopped this from happening to me. And I'm pretty convinced of it, because if you go to, I'll get it. It's like, I actually have it nearby. I will get it for the next break, and I'll hold it up for the camera for YouTube people. But if you go to the Dollar Tree, yes, the place where you can get stuff for $1.25 or $1.50, you can buy a nasal irrigator. Sounds really, doesn't that sound awful? What a disgusting, what a horrible name for it. But it's basically a neti pot. You know, those neti pots that look kind of like Aladdin's lamp, and they have water, and you tip your head back. You put it in one nostril, you tip your head back, and it runs through your sinuses and out your other nostril. It's not a very fun sensation, but I guarantee you that when you are getting that first little inkling, that little tickle, that little sense, oh no, I'm getting a cold. If you get up out of bed in the middle of the night, 2 in the morning, you put distilled water in either your neti pot or your $1.25 Dollar Tree nasal irrigator squeeze bottle thing that I'll show you. And I have a bottle of, not a bottle, I'll show them to you, little packets of salt stuff that you can put in there, but you can also just put a shake of salt from your salt shaker, because your nasal passages want the equivalent of the fluid in your body, which has some salt in it, just like your tears. So you want to put a little bit of salt in it, but here's the key, here's the kicker. Put grapefruit seed extract, not grape seed oil, that's a whole other thing. Grapefruit seed extract. Imagine you're eating a grapefruit and one of the seeds gets in your mouth and you chew it. What that's going to taste like? It's going to taste bitter and nasty, and you're going to want to spit it out. Well, that bitter nastiness is very powerful in fighting germs, and it's also not harmful to your sinuses, and I can attest to that because I've been doing this for years. And I have not gotten sick. I can't remember the last time I got sick, because every time I feel that tickle, every time I feel that thing coming on, I get up. I get my nasal irrigator and my neti pot. I have both. I put distilled water in it. You want distilled water because your tap water may have icky stuff in it that you... Oh, hi, kitty. I forgot to remove her. Oh, yeah, that's Mean C. That's my semi-senile, older 16-year-old cat who's meowing. But anyway, if you take the grapefruit seed extract and the little bit of salt and put it with distilled water in there and nasal irrigate, meaning put it up one nostril, it comes out the other, put it up one nostril, it comes out the other. It's semi-unpleasant, but it's much less unpleasant than spending 4 days on your back in bed. And I have never once, knock on wood, I have never once gotten a cold, ever, from that first tickle on doing that. Ever. Never, ever. It works every single time. And this time, because I was in an Airbnb the night before my son's graduation, I woke up with a very sore throat at like 2, 3 in the morning, and there was nothing I could do about it. I didn't have anything at all on hand. And I was kicking myself that I forgot to take it. And sure enough, the following day, I was flat in bed, and I have missed everything. I've done literally nothing this week but sleep. And it was crazy because, like, when I say sleep, I mean literally sleep. Like, I slept for, how many hours is that? 72? 96? I don't know. Some enormous number of hours. I just slept and slept and slept. So I feel like I lost a lot of time due to not having my grapefruit seed extract and my neti pot. So I'm glad I'm able to be here with you today. If you want to see me in my not quite most glorious state, you can head over to YouTube to Katherine Albrecht Show. And I'm doing the best I can to. Almost didn't turn the camera on today, but I thought, yeah, I'll go ahead and do it anyway. All right, so I'm talking about food preservation because it is so interesting to me how this tremendous boon, and if you don't know the word boon, it is a 50-cent word meaning benefit, this wonderful, positive, net benefit for humanity, this wonderful boon of refrigeration has actually not been such a boon after all for our health. It has made certainly things more convenient. We can preserve food. We can take food and stick it in the fridge instead of using nature's preservatives, instead of using the yeasts and the cultures that our ancestors have used forever. They did sourdough. Sourdough, my daughter's gotten really into this. Sourdough is essentially the same thing. In fact, you can go on Amazon. I did this, and I bought sourdough from like the 1600s. And how is it even possible that there's sourdough from the 1600s? In the same way that it's possible that the kefir grains that I put into the milk that I leave on my counter, the kefir grains have been going and going and going for, I don't know, 2+ years now that I've been using them. And they'll keep going. I've given them to friends. They can keep using them. And the thing about the kefir grains is you start, and I don't know why they call them grains. They should be called like kefir blobs. But these kefir blobs, and they're about the size of, maybe a cherry, I guess. Yeah, maybe cherry size, but they're bumpy. These little kefir grains, you put them in the milk, and the wonderful thing is it works even with milk that's not raw milk. It works even with pasteurized, homogenized milk. So I can buy the cheapest milk, or I can buy fancy A2 milk, which is the milk that has been genetically, is from the cows that have not been, they've not been genetically modified, but basically the older version of cows that, I could do a whole other show on that. But anyway, you could buy the expensive A2 milk, which is very good for you. You can use raw milk. You can use really any milk at all, provided that it's milk from an animal. So it could be goat milk, cow milk, whatever. You drop your kefir grains in there. Doesn't matter the temperature. You do not have to warm it up. You don't have to cool it down. You can use any milk at all. You just pour it in there. So I will buy a big gallon container of milk and pour it in there, drop my kefir grains in, put a cheesecloth on top, put a rubber band around it. Absolutely forget about it. Come back a couple days later and it is clabbered, which means kind of taken on that yogurty, kefir-y consistency where it's kind of thick. And then I just scoop out the kefir grains, put them in the next jar of milk, or if I don't want to make more, I can put them in a jar with some milk, cover it up, and stick it in my fridge, and it will keep it from continuing to, it'll just preserve it until the next time I'm ready to do it. And when I drink that kefir, when I eat that kefir, I can turn it, the other thing, I can drink it as kefir. I can make it into a milkshake. I can make it into a smoothie. I can put it in a bowl with a spoon and throw some granola on it. I can add some vanilla to it. The one thing I can't do to it is add honey, because honey is a powerful antibiotic, and that will actually kill the goodness in the kefir. I suppose I could, because I'm getting plenty of the goodness anyway, so it's not like I'm going to, destroy it. But if I want all the probiotic benefits, I usually don't add honey. So I'll add some stevia to it. I'll add some maple syrup to it. I'll add some granola to it. And the other thing you can do is you can get a colander, put it over a bowl, and pour the kefir into it in a coffee filter. So line your colander with a coffee filter, pour the kefir in there, and leave it there for a day. Again, cover it with cheesecloth, and you will have the most delicious farmer's cheese. And farmer's cheese is like kind of like cream cheese, little thinner. And you can mix it with chives, you can mix it with onions, you can put some spices in it, you can sweeten it, you could add maple syrup to it, and spread it on rye crackers. Oh my gosh, it's to die for. It's so good. So these are the things that you can do if you think beyond the fridge. Really, think beyond the refrigerator, because all of those fermented foods, and every culture has had them. Kimchi, excuse me, kimchi in Korea, kimchi, cabbage, fermented with garlic and chilies and fish paste. Also incredibly good for you, loaded with probiotics, nice and bubbly, fermented, and very delicious. So all of these foods that our ancestors ate that were so good for them are gone, missing from our diets. In fact, most of us do not get any probiotics at all unless it's maybe Dannon yogurt, which, heaven forbid, that's got like one form of bacteria in it, whereas my kefir has 130 different kinds. So most of us do not have any source. We don't have sauerkraut. We don't eat vinegar. We don't consume any of the things that our ancestors used to consume. In fact, even wine, even grapes, you put grapes out, you take grape juice, just like apple juice, you leave it on the counter, and it will begin to bubble and ferment, and it will turn into wine. Our ancestors did not drink huge glasses of red wine like we do. They would use the wine that they got fermented, and they would mix it with water as a way to take the alcohol in the wine to purify any germs that were found in the water. So that's why in the Bible it talks about God pouring out the wine unmixed of his wrath. And that means, wow, that's like straight wine. You're drinking straight wine, because nobody drank straight wine. They always watered it down. So all of these things were providing probiotics to our ancestors. We're not getting them. All right, stay tuned. Another break. I'll be back.
Hey there, are you going to wait till the cows come home to get your new ease-off drop-and lift?
What in the world is an ease-off drop-and lift?
Our ease-off is a new tool to increase production for your meat processing company that will get that whole hog or half a beef on or off your rail with our remote control.
That sounds great, but can I afford it?
Sure, and the ease-off installs fast. The effortless operation will reduce fatigue, speed up your line, and increase profits.
Okay, I'm convinced. Where can I get my ease-off?
Go to easeoff.com. That's EAZEOFF.com. And hurry, because we're offering free shipping for a limited time. Easeoff.com. We make pigs fly. Cows, too.
Ease-off, LLC, 417-932-6419.
Is having another stream of income something you want? Money to pay the rent or utilities? If so, you must consider the opportunity offered by LifeWave. The details are at my website, thelibertyman.com. You may get started in your business for as little as a $295 investment. This is called the core membership, primarily for individuals and couples who want to start slowly. Next is the advanced membership for medium-sized families, or the new business builder. The premium membership is for large families or the serious entrepreneur. Each higher level offers a larger discount on X39 patches, with the premium membership offering the largest discount. You may upgrade your membership simply by paying the difference of the level you seek. It was my friendship and trust I had with Steve Ben Noon that caused me to make my investment in LifeWave. I'm so glad I did. Details at thelibertyman.com, or call me, John Moore, at 314-965-3007.
Your email is your business. But if it's spied on, hacked, or intercepted, it can fall into the wrong hands. The solution is encryption, a high-tech way to scramble your data so no one can read it. For years, only the technical elite could use this powerful tool until StartMail came along. StartMail not only lets you encrypt the email you send, it encrypts your entire account. Encryption, it's just one more way StartMail.com keeps you safe. Why are most email programs free? Companies use them as bait to lure people into their system so they can scan their data and sell them to advertisers. It's like a hotel giving out free rooms so they can film people sleeping and then sell the video. You'd never agree to that. StartMail restores your privacy. No one but you sees your sensitive data, and it costs less than a postage stamp a week. StartMail.com. It's email you can trust.
Sorry, my microphone was killed. Those of you on YouTube, I'm so sorry. And then you do it on the other side, and there you go. So this is a neti pot, and now I'm going to show you the thing you can buy for $1.25 at the Dollar Tree. And this is a sinus rinse bottle. It comes in a box, and I actually brought my little plastic here so I could demonstrate it for you. So I'm not going to actually do it on myself on the air. I would, but I won't. You basically put it up your nostril and you squeeze, and watch what happens if you're watching on YouTube. It comes out the top like that, and you don't have to use the whole bottle. You just do it until enough comes out. But if you do this with grapefruit seed extract, you will not get sick. I swear by it. And everyone I've ever convinced to do it, because it's pretty hard to convince people to do it, but everyone I've ever convinced to do it has miraculously also not gotten sick, because it works. It really, really works. And had I had this, I would not have been sick. So there's my tip. So sorry about the sound. so sorry. I hit my mute button and shouldn't have. So again, grapefruit seed extract, Neilmed sinus rinse, a neti pot. This one was like $12. You know, it's ridiculous when you could buy the little plastic thing, which is easier to use anyway, frankly, because this one you got to tip back and it feels kind of weird. But the plastic one, you can literally lean forward over your sink where you kind of want to be leaning anyway, because the water's going all over the place. So I'm a big believer in natural remedies, and it's interesting because what was the thing I was just looking up? Oh, I know what it was. So you know Mucinex. In order for me to go on the air, and I've used this for years and years, I've been doing radio since 2008, whenever I get a cold and my throat is kind of congested, I use a product called Mucinex. It's in blue pills in a blue box, and Mucinex is a product called guaifenesin. And so yesterday, having nothing else to do because I was in bed, I looked up guaifenesin, and I learned that it came from the guaiac tree. And I thought, well, of course it came from a tree. By the way, that's the national tree of Jamaica. And they used it as a cure for syphilis back in the day. Who knew? Syphilis, the sexually transmitted disease that causes insanity and all kinds of massive problems for people, that there was no cure for back then. But the guaiac? Guaifenesin? I'm pretty sure it's guaiac. The Guiac, the guaiac tree is the guaifenesin. And I was like, how cool is that? How cool is that? And then I got to thinking about the fact that God put everything here already for us. All of the remedies that we would need, all the remedies that the big pharmaceutical companies are, packaging and calling Mucinex and putting into tablets and putting into plastic blister packs and putting in cardboard and gluing shut and using trucks to transport to warehouses and then distribute to stores. I mean, that's all really cool, isn't it? It's really great that I can get the extract of the guaiac tree by just going down the street to the Dollar General that's like a mile from my house. That's really convenient. And that's one of the benefits of modern technology. I don't know in my neck of the woods what natural remedy there was for congestion or syphilis or what have you, but I pretty much can guarantee you there is one, because God provided that in like literally every environment, every possible environment on earth. He provided the plants to be our medicine. It's pretty amazing. So anyway, I'm Katherine Albrecht. This is the first hour of the show. I will be back with the second hour, and I will do my absolute level best to not mute my microphone ever again. All right, thanks for tuning into this hour one. I'll see you in hour two.
Tejibo Tea Club's original Pure Pau Arco Super Tea helps build red corpuscles in the blood, which carry oxygen to our organs and cells. Our organs and cells need oxygen to regenerate themselves. The immune system needs oxygen to develop, and cancer dies in oxygen. So the tea is great for healthy people because it helps build the immune system, and it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease due to an infection, diabetes, or cancer. The tea is also organic and naturally caffeine-free. A 1-pound package of tea is $49.95, which includes shipping. To order, please visit drinksupertea.com. The first word is drink, spelled D-R-I-N-K, then the word super, then the word tea. The complete website is drinksupertea.com, or call us at 818-965-9113, Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. California time. That's 818-965-9113, drinksupertea.com.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
Stay tuned for the Dr. Katherine Albrecht Show.
Is your email box overrun with spam? With a StartMail account, you'll never have to give your real email address to a stranger again. Online shopping, newsletter subscriptions, getting that 30% off coupon, they all need your email address. But with StartMail, you can invent new addresses or aliases linked to your inbox behind the scenes and give those out to people while keeping your real address hidden. It's just one more protection from StartMail.com.
My name is John. I'm the founder of Blackout Coffee, and I started Blackout because I really love coffee. I've always loved coffee, and after traveling so much to Europe, South America, and trying so many different coffees that were so good, and every time I came back to the U.S., I was so disappointed with the coffee, so I figured that I had to do something about it. The biggest difference is on the beans and the roasting process, how we roast it, and how fresh it is. The fresher the roast, the better the quality. Here I have like all of the coffee. It's roasted within 1 to 2 days prior to being shipped. So it literally gets to consumer's house within 3 to 5 days after being roasted. If you like coffee, you have to try ours. It's fresh roasted. It's one of the best beans that we can get, and you will definitely see the difference.
Visit blackoutcoffee.com and use the coupon code REPUB10. That's REPUB10.
It's not just Americans who prefer to pull themselves up by their bootstraps rather than ask for assistance. This desire for independence spans cultures and gender. I'm Dr. Katherine Albrecht, back soon to explain, and I won't need any help either.
Red alert, Yahoo users. You've fallen in a trap that could ruin your life. If you keep using Yahoo,
You consent to sharing all data in your email account with our AI providers, and you grant us a perpetual license to use, display, publish, and publicly distribute your content in any media known now or in the future,